what worked for us is that from the beginning we had a hypothesis that we have to reverse this. We have to make what is more important, what is more specialty care, what is more at scarcity in India, that need to come to digital, right? And that need to reach people, and that need to be effective and efficient for doctors, like specialist doctors to use, and that's when real meaningful impact can be created and value can be created. So without value creation, you can't also monetize. You really can't get people to pay for your service, and it's like a vicious cycle where your business won't take off at all, right? So going with this reverse approach really worked for us. So going for specialist care, going for solutions that actually will make it efficient for doctors.
This is Siddharth Alwalia. Welcome to the 100x Entrepreneur Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Prime Venture Partners, an early stage VC fund led by Amit Somani, Shripati Acharya, and Sanjay Swami. Prime is often the first institutional investor in category creating tech startups in fintech, SaaS, healthcare, and education such as EasyTap, MyGate, and SignUp. To know more about Prime, visit primevp.in. Today, I have with me Prasad Kompalli. Prasad is the co-founder and CEO of Mfine, one of the leaders in telehealth in India. Before Mfine, he was Chief Revenue Officer and Head of E-commerce platforms at Myntra. And prior to Myntra, Prasad spent several years in senior leadership roles in SAP in India and Germany. Welcome, Prasad. Prasad has been a good friend. I have known him since my days at working at Prime Ventures. I have taken health and leadership lessons from him. So, Prasad, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Siddharth, for having me. It's great that with all the work that you're doing, in your day job, you're doing all these additional pursuits of yours. Great to see you, fully energetic, and yeah, I've seen a lot of change in you, and you look fit, ever fitter.
Thank you. Just taking inspiration from you.
That's good. That's cool. That's really great to be doing this.
So, Prasad, you, Ajit, and Ashutosh founded Mfine in December 2016.
And Arjun also, Arjun Chaudhary.
Yeah, and Arjun.
Yeah.
And the main offering to users is on demand access to medical care through virtual consultations and connected care programs like diagnostics, right? Uh, and you have currently 4,000 plus doctors across 35 specialties from 700 prominent hospitals on Mfine, and you have tied up with 500 plus diagnostic centers. So let's start. I would like to start. This is where you are, and you have raised like $75 million in funding from Indian and international investors. That's phenomenal. But I want to start from the beginning, right? If you can just throw some light about your background, your childhood days, your family, right? And what made you uh, come into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think yeah, I mean typical background of middle class upbringing, and I'm from actually Vijayawada in Andhra Pradesh, and did my engineering in computer science from Warangal, NIT Warangal. In childhood days, meaning I mean it's very typical in the sense that very much interested and focused on math and sciences, etc. Wanted to be an engineer always. My a lot of people in the family and cousins and my brother, everybody is an engineer. My father, of course, was he was working in railways. My mother is housewife. But both of them were teachers. They used to take tuitions as kind of a hobby, additional hobby in the communities, etc. So there, actually, a lot of things I learned and got interested in math and sciences, etc. And in an inevitable journey to become an engineer. So became that, but I definitely enjoyed that entire journey of becoming a computer science engineer. I think over the years I realized the value of what we have learned. And yeah, I mean, after that, in a typical career, worked in services companies, product companies, etc. One of the small company I joined, which is a product company. It's a German company, started small operations in India. That got acquired by SAP. And then I got the taste of working in a multinational company, moved to Germany, worked there in the management team, close to the board, and then came back to India, and then realized that at that stage, India is like buzzing with activity. Internet is taking off. Consumer internet is taking off. Really got excited, and in general, technology entrepreneurship looked very plausible and very exciting back in India. Having worked many years in smaller and big companies and multinational companies, etc. So I really found what is exciting was that build something in India for India, and particularly in the for people around you. That really motivated me to come out of SAP and start a journey. I actually, before joining Myntra, I started a interesting medical implant. I joined a team that was trying to build a medical implant, an indigenous medical implant, and that didn't go very far, but taught me a lot of lessons of entrepreneurship, and how to look at how to scope the problem, how to really define what you're going after, and then go in steps. Then got in touch with Mukesh and Ashutosh, joined Myntra, and there I learned even bigger lessons there, and saw the action, and be was part of the action in terms of building a very large company and scaling a company to $1 billion in revenue. Yeah, and eventually started Mfine, which is completely on my own, with together with Ashu and others.
And if you can share, first my question is, how many years of your career you spent before Myntra? Uh,
So quite a bit, actually. Nearly, I think, 15, 16 years. Worked in, as I said, smaller companies, big companies, in small teams, and also as an individual contributor, as well as leading big, leading teams, engineering teams or technology teams of spanning 7 8 countries in SAP. So had exposure to many different facets of how to build, run businesses and teams. And yeah, as I said, at some point realized that the calling has been there, that something to do in India with technology for the Indian market. So as a technologist, always interested in problem solving, and imagining new solutions to old problems or new problems. And somewhere the whole thing seemed more possible. More avenues opened up. I think after 2008 2009 time frame, really saw that this is the right time, and moved into startups and entrepreneurship after that.
what was the scale of Myntra when you joined? When you exited, if you said it right, it was $1 billion in revenues. But if you
Yeah,
can
I
share.
think I joined. I think it was probably around $60 million, 50 $60 million annual revenue. So it was an incredible journey of scale, growth, building teams, building a brand, acquiring nearest competitor, and getting acquired by Flipkart. So all of the lessons of building a great business in completely shrunk down into 4 years, and then it was amazing. It was amazing school for us.
What were your key learnings from your journey at Myntra?
I think what we learned was that really be very clear about consumer proposition, build it right through everything that you do in the product, in the way that, for example, in fashion selection, how do we really take care of making sure that we have a very unique point of view that is coming across, which is appreciated by the consumers. In logistics, we did a really good job in terms of no questions asked returns, and 30-day or initially even longer time returns possibility. So a lot of innovation, lot of innovation at the forefront of really keeping the consumer experience, consumer proposition at the forefront. That was the biggest learning. And the second thing, of course, is right. The technology has immense possibility for changing things in India, and we now really saw opportunity to build large scale systems that will have a huge impact on business operations, consumer experience, and just organizing the business much more in a streamlined way, and make it better for the consumers. So that is another lesson. And last but not least, I think when we are scaling, how to build great teams, how to build teams and culture as a differentiation, as a competitive advantage. I think that was really one of the biggest lessons that we learned at Myntra, definitely.
And did you make retirement money at Myntra?
No, I think so. See, through my career, money was never a problem, in the sense that I had enough to take some choices of my career. And even before Mintra, I spent 2 years trying to make that medical implant startup work, and it didn't work. So, but it was okay. I think I always had enough money somehow earned through various stages of my career, that I could try what I want to try, and what where my heart is, and what my passion is about. And I think that way I'm lucky. I think it was okay.
And coming to your journey of Mfine, how did you get the insight to start again into healthcare, but in a different way, right? This was more software, more, trying to solve a problem which has existed forever in India, teleconsult,
Yeah.
making both, such a difficult marketplace, making both doctors and patients agree. I myself, having been an healthcare entrepreneur, failed miserably in telehealth, though we worked, little success in electronic medical records. But I
Mm.
think for us in 2014, 2015, we thought that
Yeah.
telehealth wouldn't work.
Yeah. I think what we saw was that I think what Ashutosh and myself, we got really excited about was that the what exactly you mentioned, the problem has not been solved for many years, and we saw that as an opportunity. I think to some extent, technology is coming of age. I think we were very big believers. I personally am probably a very big believer of mobile, the power of mobile, and what it can do to consumers' life. Um, and inherently, the healthcare is a data-driven business. AI can be really powerfully applied. So we saw the opportunity of mobile and AI coming together can really solve the problem in a more meaningful manner than ever attempted, at least in India thus far. So that got us really excited, right? So, and we saw that opportunity that not many companies were trying to build products around care delivery. There were products around in healthcare and health tech, of course. A lot of e-pharmacy examples are there, and they've done a great job in reducing the friction there. Also, several discovery applications, etc., or even practice management software for doctors. So those kind of things existed, but what we saw was an opportunity that is there a better way to deliver care, both for the patients and consumers and for the doctors, efficient, more effective, because it's connected care, because it's a digital first approach. Can we actually get the treatment to be better? Can we get the outcomes better? Right. This is the opportunity we saw really, and we saw that mobile in the hands of the people is an extremely and extraordinarily powerful device, and we really started one of the things we used to talk about, which is a little bit esoteric, but we always used to talk about how can we make healthcare, a kind of a consumer internet service, like an OTT, right? People just can go on demand and get their problem addressed, right? Can we make it as seamless and as easy as that? So that's really the journey that we got very excited about. And you're right, from business point of view, there weren't many success stories at that point in time. A lot of people from that point kind of discouraged us. But from so it's always like you get a challenge, you really get kind of intoxicated with that. I we need to solve this. This seems to be a very interesting challenge to go after, right? So that was the same spirit four of us had. So we really got into Mfine that way.
Can you share in some numbers current scale of Mfine, like how many bookings happen per month, or a proxy for revenue?
Yeah, so we do nearly various different transactions, nearly more than 300,000 or so in a month, and it's constantly growing. Last year we saw 15% month-on-month growth, and it's continuing. So we have reached already. We have. If you look at our detailed customer journeys, and we reached more than 3 to 4 million customers who have very detailed, use cases in terms of diagnostic test or talking to a doctor, etc. And they have their detailed so-called medical records, etc., completely digitized and available for them anytime for access. So that's the kind of scale that we are at. I think, to be honest, it's still tip of the iceberg. We see immense potential to reach, at least, we saw that health is a very fundamental need. Beyond access, if you solve the effectiveness as well and quality as well, every smartphone user can be a potential customer for us.
I'm asking, would you have crossed the 10 mil ARR mark in your journey?
Yeah, we are way beyond that. Yeah,
Oh, awesome.
yeah.
And coming back to you raising investments, how did you find your first two investors?
Yeah, so we talked to. I think it was interesting. I think initially we bootstrapped with a little bit of money of our own, me and while of course we bootstrapped, but we are also looking for a initial investors, seed or Series A, whatever. The first time when I think in a chance meeting or so, we came across somebody who runs a stem cell storage company, and he actually is part of a founder network at Stellaris, and there he took us to Stellaris and Ritesh, and when we talked to Ritesh comes from background of understanding healthcare market in India from his previous experiences, etc. So he really immediately appreciated what we are aiming to do. So that's where the first investment happened, investment decision happened. Ritesh from Stellaris took that call, and post that, yeah, after a few months of it, when we were looking at, that was a pre-series A kind of investment, initial seed kind of investment, and then when we were looking at it, when we were you know uh, continue to build the product, etc., launched in a couple of hospitals along with a couple of hospital partners, etc. That's when I again in another chance meeting got in touch with Sanjay Swami and Shripati. Until then, Shripati, even though he was my neighbor, we never talked to each other until then. We didn't know about each other, but luckily that happened. And then again, there was a match of minds, and they really liked what we're doing. And then uh, and the second Series A decision happened also with Prime coming in the lead as well. So both are kind of chance meetings, but there was a clear alignment on the vision and the capability of the team and the approach that we are taking, which is uh, in our view, fresh and a very differentiated approach, and the capability of the team, I think, convinced the investors.
So Prasad, so who is more fun to work with, Stellaris or Prime?
Oh, that's a interesting question. Uh, I think both come from a different perspective and different way of looking at things, which is useful for us. So Shripati, I mean, talk to all the three partners at Prime, but more often with Shripati and Sanjay. And I work with Ritesh at Stellaris. Yeah, they do really bring a different perspective. I think it's been good so far with both of them.
So if you can share more on that, like what are those different perspectives like?
Yeah, what Ritesh brings is really the experience of having seen the ecosystem in healthcare. That has been useful from the beginning, right? So he can give a very valuable feedback on some of the things that we're thinking about, and also it's a kind of a good discussion partner in a lot of those aspects, right? Um, and on the other hand, Shripati and Sanjay, whenever I interact with them, it's more about a little bit more abstract, not specific about healthcare. But on the other hand, it's a larger perspective on how broader themes like India stack, etc., may evolve, and what would be possible role that we can play at a larger ecosystem level in India, as well as some also drawing some parallels from abroad. Yeah, so those are the, kind of one is very specific on the healthcare side, etc., and also another is more broader, building of the India stack and technology transformation that's happening in India, technology-led transformation that's happening in India, etc. So I think these are both good to think about while we are taking decisions on strategy, taking decisions on what is the direction we need to take the company, and various other aspects of thinking about how to build the company.
In 2021, right, we have total number of more than 50 unicorns in India, 50 startups which have achieved a valuation of greater than 1 billion. Uh, in 2021, today we saw Zomato IPO, right? Fantastic moment for Indian startup ecosystem, and similar other lined up. But there is no unicorn in healthcare. Like healthcare means the startup technology part of it. Why do you think is that?
Yeah, I think things are changing pretty rapidly. If you look at some of the companies starting from, you're right that core healthcare delivery there aren't, but yeah, the areas of like e-pharmacy, etc., have seen good momentum, and more than that, last 6 months to 1 year, there has been a significant change in the ecosystem. I think now Indian consumers and providers have recognized the value of going digital in healthcare. Just similar to what happened in commerce and fintech, etc., and even edutech. I think healthcare is now definitely has changed the perspective of COVID. Definitely has changed the perspective of how to think about healthcare delivery with the help of new technology in this kind of age, like 21st century. I think that is changing pretty fast now. The entire landscape in India. I think unicorn is one way to look at it and characterize it. But if that is one way to look at it, I think there will be more unicorns sooner than later in healthcare as well, health tech as well. And that, whatever is the fundamental changes that are required to be achieving those level of investments, level of growth, level of reach of technology, I think those fundamentals are already in place, and there is a huge behavior change and shift in the consumer and provider side in healthcare post COVID.
And if you can share, right, what have been the hurdles of building a startup, a tech startup in healthcare, which you couldn't foresee when you started or did your research?
Um, I think what I mean, we got into it because we were very excited about it, and we had. I wouldn't say we force. We already knew exactly what is the kind of problems we'll face. At the same time, it's not like it completely took us by surprise. In fact, in the last 4 years, first 2 years was the pre-COVID era, and the next 2 years was post-COVID era. Even before COVID, we had a significant number of people who want to move to digital, and our business model is such that we got really specialist doctors and hospitals onboarded and some of the prominent diagnostic chains onboarded, etc. And we were looking at end-to-end care delivery as the business that we are in rather than individual verticals of teleconsult or doctor discovery or something like this. So those things were really playing out well. But what is the a learning that got reinforced from day one to even now, even today? I share that with employees in a pretty let's say seriously, that you need to build. Healthcare is not going to be healthcare solutions, particularly from technology, not going to be possible to build without a deeper understanding of how this sector works, how the science works, how the doctor thinks, how the consumer, what is the consumer mind state when there is a health issue. I think what I say usually is to convey this, that it's not a common sense domain, like you are a smart engineer and a MBA or something like that, and you had experience in building basic commerce solutions or supply chain technology or things like this. Nothing to undermine the complexity of those, but healthcare is a little bit more esoteric, and you need to be really respecting that. You need to be really getting the knowledge of that pretty deeply. Then only you can build the right solutions. I think that's the learning that we've gone through, and I believe that's the learning a lot of tech companies have gone through, successfully, unsuccessfully, whatever it is, in building for healthcare, right? You hear a lot of things like, healthcare technology stuff, or doctors don't like technology. I think lot of this is just opinions out of the same problem, coming out of the same problem that was not solved. That you didn't build the technology good enough with a deeper integration of aspects of healthcare and the science of healthcare, etc. And that's probably why people found it difficult. But we learned this pretty early days, and that seemed to, uh, you know, it resonated well with us, that we need to solve the problem in a more meaningful, deeper manner, and that's what is working for us better.
And if you can share certain nuances or deep dive into what worked and what didn't work at Mfine.
Yeah. So as I said, like some examples I can give, right? What definitely worked for us is that telemedicine has always been seen as something which is kind of on the side, a little bit kind of unimportant problems, or simple enough problems can be solved with some video consultation.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people ended up playing telemedicine, having telemedicine play in primary care, and even like I would say even less sophisticated than a regular primary care of dealing with the conditions of people. But what worked for us is that from the beginning we had a hypothesis that we have to reverse this. We have to make what is more important, what is more specialty care, what is more at scarcity in India, that need to come to digital, right? And that need to reach people, and that need to be effective and efficient for doctors, like specialist doctors, to use. And that's when real meaningful impact can be created and value can be created. So without value creation, you can't also monetize. You really can't get people to pay for your service, and it's like a vicious cycle where your business won't take off at all, right? So going with this reverse approach really worked for us. So going for specialist care, going for solutions that actually will make it efficient for doctors. That's where we deploy a lot of AI there. Um, Going for kind of on-demand services, not just appointment booking and waiting and not knowing which doctor you have to talk to, etc. Having a consistent product experience and on-demand product experience. Those are some of the insights we got very early while talking to. We did a Me and Ashu used to meet. We actually met around 100 odd different consumers of healthcare services and around 50 odd doctors and hospital owners, etc. And some of the hypotheses that I'm talking about right now came out of those things, as well as being in constant touch with doctors. And from the very early on, we had a doctor on board, actually a couple of them in the management team. So being keeping ourselves honest and not just fly too high without having the foundational strengths. So those things helped, and definitely those things worked for our advantage. What didn't work? I mean, these are small experiments. Constantly looking at, I think there are not. If you try to accelerate growth or inflate demand, that won't work, right? There is no. It's not that we tried hard at it, but we learned it very early in the market. So it's an advantage and a disadvantage, right? So in healthcare, you can't inflate the demand artificially. That also means that if you have a right product, there is not a huge um, price comparison and price issue as such. So that's initially itself, from the rest of the market, we have learned, and now we've seen a couple of experiments we have done, and it really doesn't work that way. People really want highly trusted, highly, experienced and expertise-oriented doctors and other services like diagnostic labs, etc. So they really value that when it comes to health. Those are some of the things that we learned pretty early, and we still are seeing the results of sticking to those principles, to the T.
So you mentioned couple of times, right, that you even during COVID, you saw 15% acceleration month on month in growth. Can you share, right, what was your sudden reaction when lockdown happened in March 2020, and how did you gear up to prepare the demand? Right, was the consumer behavior expected when COVID happened in healthcare?
No, I think to some extent it is a surprise for us also, to what extent um, this can change the consumer behavior. So I think, see, initially when the lockdown is there and you can't go out, and people are in a panic situation, we understood that of course there will be some peak capacity or peak demand on the consultations, remote consultations, and at home tests and all that stuff, and we were prepared for it. And we could manage to capture that demand and serve the people in need. However, what was a little bit positive surprise was that how permanent that behavior change became, right? People really understood that, oh, this is way better than visiting a hospital and increasing your chance of infection, waiting hours together, even in without COVID, or even without in a safe period, or a non no lockdown period. People really understood this, and that's number one. Number two is on the provider side as well. They realize that, see, we always believe that there is an inevitable digital transformation that has to happen in India, because there is supply is so constrained. Unless we find efficiencies with technologies, we can't reach all the people that are in need from the very short supply of doctors and other services, right? So we knew that this was inevitable, but the entire ecosystem saw it, right? How important and urgent it is. So I think that entire behavior change, what we thought would happen over the next few years, got accelerated by at least 2 to 3 years.
Wow. And if you can share in some number, like you shared today, there are roughly 300,000 transactions which happen per month on Mfine. What would be the number, just let's say in Feb 2020?
Oh, that would be, I think it was I would say something like 40, so 1,000, 45,000 or so.
Wow. So it's been almost a 6x growth in a
Yeah.
span of less than 18 months.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And can you share like what's the current size of the team of Mfine?
Yeah, we are nearly including all colleagues in operational support and everything, including we are around 500 people now.
Wow.
We were again in Feb 2020. If you ask me, I think we were around 200 people or so, 200 to 50 people, and I know this because we had an office that only can hold 250 people, and after the lockdown we never used the office so far, except for a couple of events in between, but now we can't actually because the space is not enough. Yeah.
So, in spite of the struggles you faced first time in healthcare, you came back again because
Yeah.
one reason was you were passionate and you saw the second was you saw the opportunity that India has to eventually transform into a digital healthcare nation. You can't serve 1 billion people
Yeah.
in the same way it has been, right? Uh, what would you advise healthcare entrepreneurs who are starting today to do their homework on, right? To be prepared. Yes.
Yeah, I think the most important one, I do keep meeting a few people who are now more and more interested in this sector and starting off. And I remember a few of the interactions over the last few months as well. So the constant thing that I tell them always is that you have to go deeper, understand exactly the what exactly problem you're solving. Unless you're solving a peripheral logistics problem of moving the goods or moving certain last mile few things, etc. um, unless you're solving that problem, but if you're really going into, let's say, wellness issues or mental wellness, or the few people that I talk to, or even nutrition or otherwise, so those kind of consultation problems, etc., different issues, uh, I really tell them that you have to really understand that this is not the problems are not purely cannot be defined as a logistical problems or efficiency problems. You need to really look at how care is delivered, what are the long term impacts of it, what the customer expects better outcomes. So how do you enable those outcomes? The doctor expects that he or she is more effective and more able to reach more patients, etc., with the expertise. How do you ensure that? How do we what is the power of digital data in healthcare, because a lot of decisions in the end, healthcare delivery is a intensely data driven business, right? The doctor is making a lot of algorithms in her head, right, while thinking about the treatment, or every data, every vital that is measured on a connected device, or a every blood parameter, every X-ray, or every of this, each of these data is an important has an important role to play in the decision that are made for the better health of the consumers. So you have to understand those just very deep. Sometimes also, no, it's probably important to learn basic science of how medicine works and what is the approach people take. I don't expect engineers to become MBBS doctors, but I expect people at least to have the appreciation, number one, for those things. Secondly, have a doctor in the team. No, no, we have a doctor in the management team. We have 3 4 doctors who are product managers. We have a doctor in customer support. We have a doctor in content marketing and marketing in general in the team. We have a doctor in business development. So we have put doctors everywhere. so so it really helps us. In the end, we are in this business, and we have to understand this deeply. I think um, we can't. This is not a this cannot at no level. This can be a frivolous, or anything cannot be frivolous or meaningless in this. Everything has an outcome related to this. Um, but so you better be very very accurate, better be detail oriented, better be learning about how this whole thing works, whichever department you are in, whichever area you are in, whether you're a marketeer or a customer support executive or a product developer or engineer. This is important.
And if I were to ask, which are the top five healthcare companies in India, healthcare tech companies in India you respect and why? If five is a larger number, you can restrict yourself to three.
I think different people have tried to solve different aspects of healthcare delivery. There are a couple of companies who are trying to solve you know building how to make the entire radiologist's assessment more efficient with using deep tech, right? I have seen those companies. I have seen companies which are trying to make it a more the diagnostic process in pathology more accurate with image processing coupled with just the chemical processing of the sample. So I think there are different areas. To be honest, it's not that, and I really appreciate and talk to them. And there is a small company I recently met who are trying to do what PillPack has done in US in terms of pre-packing the dosages for people to consume medicines in a correct way. So there are different people attempting those things. It's not that it's not lack of respect, but it is still, India is a very nascent market still. I haven't seen yet massive scale. So my dream and vision, my real let's say desire is to see that India leapfrogs the world, Western world, in a way that with mobile and technology, that we suddenly have a much better healthcare delivery, much more empowered consumers of healthcare services, much more effective doctors and doctors' time. We are quite far away from it, but I see a lot of attempts in different perspectives going after these kind of goals. Hopefully, not one or two or three or four. Not that my respect or something like that. There will be at least like a dozen companies transforming the entire healthcare experience and setting up an example for the rest of the world. Right? I believe we have done in bits and pieces in fintech, with UPI and other things around fintech in general, empowering billion people towards having financial control and empowerment. I want to do. I want to see the same thing in healthcare. We are not yet there. We are far from it, but at least the seeds are there. The attempts are being made, and the technology has definitely come of age to make it possible. Along with, I'm no one to say that what others are doing is better or good or worse or whatever. I think we are all in the same boat, and we are trying a lot to transform this entire marketplace.
As a ex healthcare entrepreneur, my dream is right today. My house help asked me, you know, that if I can transfer through UPI 2,000 rupees to her village, right, to her son in village or to her sister in village. I want to see that dream of coming true when she asked me that, can you arrange
Yeah,
virtual doctor booking for her relatives who are sitting in village?
yeah, or even do it herself, right?
Yeah, do it herself.
Yeah,
So I think
that's what I said. Every smartphone user should be able to use the healthcare service on her or his smartphone. We saw examples, right? Even during COVID or otherwise, we saw really amazing examples of people getting care from remotest parts of the country, as well as different economic segments, as well as different times of the day, and different kind of specialities and medical needs, right? From a child from a village where the nearest primary health center is 40 kilometers away on a Sunday night. I had an accident with second degree burns, so pediatrician could actually guide them and connect them on and fine. So what I'm really amazed and feel fulfilled with Mfine is that the parents who are in that remote part could think of Mfine, connect and talk to the doctor, right? So recently one of the doctors was telling me that on the platform that it's amazing what Mfine can do, because she just came out of consultation with a family which is affected by COVID near Nepalese border. Almost like nothing available except the basic medical shop, etc., etc., etc. And they could actually be constantly connected with the doctor, and they luckily, I mean, fortunately, they all could recover. When the doctor was telling me, I realized that no, they didn't have a lot of things, but they had a smartphone, and they had the um, uh, they had enough knowledge, and they could manage to contact a doctor, and I'm fine. And this gives me an incredible satisfaction, and so much more excitement to go out and solve for the entire 1.3 billion people of the country, and and so much more belief that it's possible.
My last question to you, Prasad, is that you are very calm and focused. I have seen most startup CEOs of like very fast growing startups very aggressive. I'd been in this ecosystem for like last 7 8 years. Is external sign of aggressiveness necessary to be in shoes of a large startup CEO? And if not, then what makes you comfortable in your own skin?
No, I don't think anything is necessary. I think people are different. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, could be, it's just the way I am, and it works. So if somebody believes these stereotypes, I think that definitely I will discourage people to believe in such kind of stereotypes. I think people have different way of going with the life and going with the profession. So this is always worked, and it actually works best when you are comfortable in your own skin, right? So that's the thing, right? And probably you can't try to just emulate somebody who you are not, right? So that's unnecessary, I think. And again, I think no stereotype really. I would not advise anybody for any stereotype. I think uh, people with sufficient passion and insight and humbleness to learn what is needed to fulfill that passion or do things, and in reality, and make it a reality, all their dreams, and that capability, if they have, I think they can be successful. That's what I believe.
Thank you so much, Prasad. It's been wonderful to live your journey of Mfine, understand from you, and deep dive into your passion of solving healthcare at scale.
Thank you, Siddharth. Great chatting up, and all the best for all the things that you're doing. And great having this conversation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.